I'm Executive Chef Tim England, and we're here at Beacon Hill at Eastgate today. And it's a great day for Beacon Hill and for Grand Rapids Community College. We have Chef Rick Bayless joining us to spend the day both here and at the college and just share his knowledge of community and gardening with us. Chef Bayless, thank you for being here with us today.
My pleasure. This is so incredibly impressive. I want to move in. It's like this gorgeous garden here, the food service that you do here is just so impressive.
Community, community, community.
Yeah.
From the moment people come through the front door, we base it that way. I take the kitchen the same way as well. I'm a firm believer of hiring chefs for their knowledge, their background, their training, their expertise, and using it.
Yeah.
They get a voice
Right.
when they're in the kitchen here. They're actively involved what we call a culinary think tank. We work together as a group. We talk about the menus coming up. They plan the menus. If a chef creates something new, their name's on that menu.
That's cool.
If I'm out in that dining room and a chef says, or one of the residents may say, wow, you did a great job on that dish, I'm not going to stand there and say,
Right.
I did that. Oh, I worked real hard. I'm going to go back in that. I'm going to go back in that kitchen. I'm going to get
Right.
Chef Mike or Chef Maggie, and I'm going to bring them out and say, could you please tell them that?
Yeah.
With that comes pride. With pride comes ownership. With ownership comes longevity, and it's a win-win all the way around.
Absolutely agreed. 100%. We do the same kind of development in our restaurants in Chicago, where we develop all menu items sort of together. Somebody takes the lead on it, but everybody contributes their knowledge, their creativity, their understanding, and then once the dish is created by whoever takes responsibility for it, that's their dish, and they're always the one that introduces it to our staff, who then introduces it that way to our guests in the restaurant.
Why do you think it's so difficult for so many restaurants to not get as simple of a technique as that is?
Well, I would say that it has something to do with the fact that some people look at the restaurant business strictly as a business. And I say that in the restaurant business, what we're really doing is creating community, because we bring people together, our guests together around a table. And that is sort of the nucleus of community, sharing food with family, with friends. In the restaurant back of the house or front of the house, our group is a community as well. And all you have to do is spend a few days in a restaurant to understand that because we're all working together to create something, we have to create community to do that. We can't work independently and make it work. So I say first and foremost, when you're feeding people, then you're creating community both within the group that's making that food and sharing the food, as well as the people that have gathered together around the table. So community to me is really what our first and foremost goal is. And of course we have to make a business out of it, and everybody's got to thrive financially and in many different ways, but to me it's the heart of it is community. And once you understand that, then you sort of look at the restaurant business certainly in a different way.
That parallel happens here at Beacon Hill. From the moment you walk in the door, location of the kitchen, location of the open bistro, it's you use the word nucleus. That's how our president and CEO looks at it too. He wanted food service and hospitality to be the heart and soul of the entire environment. All three wings radiate out from food service. And we look at, for us, which is different than maybe a set restaurant, we look at every dining room, every dining venue as an extension of each resident's individual home. Those dining rooms are an extension of their dining rooms, the living rooms, the libraries, the different common spaces are theirs. That also helps us to look at it from that angle as well.
Of course.
That we're serving in their home instead of serving in a dining room at a retirement community.
I picked that up immediately when I walked in. Just the way that the kitchens are organized in the dining rooms, and the way that there is an interactive component, if you will, between the kitchen and the guest, the dining room. When you can actually, and in all of our restaurants we have open kitchens, and I always said that I wanted to do that for two reasons. It's really good for the cooks to see people enjoying the food, that gives you immediate feedback. You don't have to hear it from a server, but you can actually see it happening. And it also gives the guests the opportunity to interact in some ways with the kitchen, with the cooks, to be able to walk back and say that was delicious directly to them, or just to see the skill and the craftsmanship that goes into producing a beautiful plate of food.
That's for sure. The residents, we get to know them all by name, as they get to know all the service staff and the the culinary staff. One of the things too, when it comes to that hiring process, we look for people that can work in those types of environments, that aren't too shy to come out.
Right.
Yeah, we keep some of the ones in the back that need to, or we give them a little training when you go out there. You got to watch your tongue and kind of learn to think before you open your mouth. My dad always used the phrase caution. Engage brain before putting mouth into motion. Because once it goes out, it can't go back in.
It can't go back in. No,
one of the other questions that I talk with a lot of them when we're interviewing is, I ask, before I even talk about the kitchen, I look for heart, I look for soul, I look for commitment to the craft. But with what you see around you out here, I hold up my hands and I ask, do you like to get your hands dirty? Do you like to get your hands in the earth? And those rare chefs that have had gardens or like to really be involved in gardens changes the whole dynamic of how we do what we do. I say by the time, I can't tell you how many times people ask, who tends the garden? Who plants the garden? Who weeds the garden? It's the chefs, myself, our entire culinary staff, the servers. Some of them come out and will come work. What better way if you've got a high pressure day in the kitchen and someone's getting at each other's throats? Bring them out to the garden, take off their socks and shoes, put their feet in the dirt, and all of a sudden the stress is released. They're involved with it. They take a different appreciation for food. When you take a tomato plant or a seed and you grow it from that point to production, they respect the product. Even if it's in the dead of winter and there's products that we're getting from other parts of the United States or the world, they have a different appreciation to how they prep it and how little goes into waste.
I learned that lesson very strongly. I think the third year that we opened, after we'd opened our first restaurant in Chicago, so this is 27 years ago, and I had always wanted to build our supply on local ingredients, but it was really hard 27 years ago to find good local ingredients in the Chicagoland area. We didn't have farmers markets, and which is all changed now, but we didn't have farmers markets back then, and we didn't have farmers that were bringing product into chefs. It was just unheard of back in those days. And I found this one family, actually a retired couple that had moved back to the farm that they had when they were younger, and they had decided they wanted to grow for restaurants. And that was sort of a novel idea back then, and I said, I really want to work with you. And one of our prep cooks was helping this woman unload her truck, all this beautiful produce that she had brought us. And remember, back then it was really unusual for us to get such gorgeous fresh stuff that was picked right at the perfect moment. And one of the prep cooks picked up a case of lettuce that she had beautifully packed and kind of tossed it to the side as he grabbed another one. And she grabbed him by the back of his chef's jacket and she said, I don't ever want to see you treat my beautiful lettuce like that. Do you know what I did to get that to grow like that and to harvest it and to wash it and to pack it that way for you? And it changed our whole kitchen. Because once you have that direct interaction with the production of the food, you don't treat it like a commodity anymore. You treat it like something that's really special that the earth has given us, but it's been coaxed out by people. It didn't just happen naturally. And I think that's one of the reasons that I have put such an emphasis on working directly with farmers, getting our staff out onto the farms that we work with so that they can see what happens and how hard it is to grow stuff and how rewarding it is to grow stuff, and to be surrounded here by a garden where your chefs can come out and actually tend it, I think is really a wonderful thing.
Well, that's the farming part for me. To give you a little back history on myself, goes back sorry if I get a little emotional, but we've recently, within my mother's side of the family, we've traced our genealogy back to the year 986.
My goodness.
We know that in 1746, they immigrated to London, England. And at that time, they were so overwhelmed with people, Queen Anne commissioned 10 ships to come to America with 300 people on each ship. The number one prerequisite to gain passage on the ship was an occupation. That occupation was farming.
I see.
My family was on one of those ships. We're 30 years away from my family farming in America for 300 years.
Wow, that's impressive.
And they're still in the state of Michigan. They're farming on the same land. I've got a great uncle that's 95. I've got another uncle, my mother's brother, that's still farming on some of the original settlement land. I think he's 84, but they're still farming on land that, if I go up into Oceana County, up in Hart area, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my great-great, and my great-great-great-grandparents are buried there or laid to rest in that area. And the first one, the great-great-great-grandparent, John Gibhart, when he came to that area, he came to West Michigan for farming and clean air.
Wow.
And so they're still farming. And so for me, it came natural, even part of my interview when I first came here to Beacon Hill. This garden that we're setting in was part of my interview.
Really?
The initial plan in talking about this, Jeff Hughley and I sat and talked gardening and talked about to do this. And for me, it was an easy task. You talk about with the farming, it was bringing things from the local community to bring as much product as I can. When I go home for Memorial Weekend to have a holiday weekend, by the time the weekend's ending, I'm coming back with 200 pounds of asparagus. I just picked 150 pounds of fresh rhubarb.
Yeah.
I've got a van, so I load as much as I can get in and come back, and then the chefs start processing it to use it. The farmers markets here, we're blessed because we've got an organization called FarmLink, and it's like an hourglass. The top part is all the farmers coming to them. A lot of the smaller ones don't go to the farmers markets. They can bring all these wonderful products. In the center, that's FarmLink.
Yeah.
Down on the bottom's all of us. So they send us a list with all these products, and we can get these things along with going to the farmers markets or linking up with some of the farms around too.
Of course, yeah. We have a couple of organizations like that around Chicago too, and it really helps a lot of the smaller farmers to be able to actually market their product in a way that it makes sense to them, and especially because in food service we are able to buy a lot more than a family is going to buy, and so sometimes the small purchases at the farmer's market, you have to make lots and lots of them to actually make a living at it, but you can sell a lot to a restaurant. And I think that organizations that link together the farms, especially with food service, and help them to distribute their products have really changed a lot about agriculture in the United States.
And getting the mindset for the younger generation too, or even any people, they think that, well, why doesn't a strawberry taste like it does in the summer? Well, if you would just let me serve that strawberry when it's at its peakness of ripe, instead of bringing it in from across the country and trucking it 3,000 miles and getting people to understand, like we were talking before we got started here today, gorging ourselves on peaches. Oh my gosh. If I have been craving them, and when the first one came in, it was like, it was ethereal moment of just.
And then because you live here in great peach country, you can be really picky and say, oh no, last year the peaches were just a little better than they are this. No, it's like, it's so wonderful to be able to have such a direct relationship with stuff that's grown locally that it's like your little babies, you know. And this year's been such an amazing peach season for us, because we get all of our fruit in our restaurants in Chicago from Western Michigan, so we're pulling from the same area that you guys are here. So it's been a wonderful year for the fruit.
When you go to the farmers markets, do you go in your chef uniform or your chef coat?
Well, we have this really large farmers market that I helped establish in Chicago called Chicago's Green City Market. And Wednesdays is really the day when all the chefs go. It's Wednesdays and Saturdays. Saturdays is more of a family day, and you'll see chefs that go there as well. But Usually we'll meet there around 10 o'clock in the morning. All the chefs will. And it's also a great way to see a lot of chefs in town that we're all so busy, and so we don't get a chance to say hi all that often. And so we get a chance to meet at the farmer's market and talk. And
It's
sometimes you'll see a chef working with or buying a whole bunch of one ingredient, and I'll say, what are you going to do with that much of that? I can't think of anything to do with it that I would use that much. And he or she will tell me what they're going to do, and that's a great way for us to learn as well.
Yeah, there's that culinary think tank kicking in.
Exactly.
Sometimes I'll take my sous chef or some of the other chefs and we'll walk in. It's amazing the respect that the farmers have for the chefs and the recognition of chefs.
Yeah, right.
And this community here, we're blessed with like Grand Rapids Community College, of course, and their culinary arts program. When I went into that program in '84, we were the 5th class that program had. So since 1984, I've never not been connected to the program. So over 30 years.
Right.
I'm the chairman of the advisory board for both the culinary arts and the hospitality program, and am very active throughout that whole program from start to finish. And I never want it to end, because I always want to be able to be connected to those students, speak in the classes, and formulate that link between food and the school, and try to dispel as much of the TV stuff that we can, because I want more chefs to think of getting into the kitchens and really learning to cook and interacting with chefs, and not just thinking that all of a sudden everything's about a TV show.
It'd be a TV show, yeah. I'm asked a lot of times when I speak to culinary students, what's the one piece of advice that I would give them? And I always say, what we do is a craft, okay? And just like any craft, you have to perfect the craft. And that takes a lifetime of dedication. And even the best craftsmen, late in life, are still perfecting their craft. They're still learning new things. They're still trying new ways to achieve something. And cooking is really that. And it requires that dedication and that love for what we do. And I think, unfortunately, some of the younger generation of chefs have been raised on food TV, and they think that their plan for themselves is to go to culinary school, work for a year, get a TV show, become famous, and never cook again. And you know, I came up, as you did, before all of those days of the food television and all the competition shows and all that sort of stuff. And we love doing what we do because we love the craft of it. I mean, and that's all that's the payoff. It's actually making the stuff. It's not the fame. It's not all of the stuff, the trappings that have been developed over a period of time to go with it. But it's really a lot about just loving doing the craft. And some friends, like I said, I have people over to my house every weekend. And I was telling you that all summer long the peaches have been so good that once the peaches came in, every week I make a different kind of peach pie for whoever I've invited over on the weekend. And sometimes we'll invite people over and they go, oh, this is your day off, you shouldn't be cooking and all that. It's like, no, this is what I want to do. I love doing it, and it's very different when you cook for your family and friends and you're cooking in small portions and you can play around with things and you can just take your time. There's no dinner service that has to start at a certain moment. I can say, it's going to be a few minutes more before I get this exactly the way that I want it.
Here, have another glass of wine.
Exactly.
It's your kitchen at that point.
It's my kitchen and I'm calling the shots. But I love the craft of it. I love playing around with it. I love being able to share it with a lot of people. But for me, it's about, I get up like on Sunday or Monday, those are my 2 days off, and I'll get up on Sunday or Monday morning and all I'm thinking about is what I'm going to make for dinner, because it's exciting to me, even though I've been cooking all week long.
Do you find yourself in your position where you're at with all of your restaurants and your cookbooks and things, do you get to do a lot of cooking yet?
Well, at the restaurant, I always liken myself more to like the conductor of an orchestra. If the conductor tries to play all the instruments, it's a disaster, okay? That doesn't work. There needs to be somebody that is helping to coordinate all of those musicians, and they're playing their own instruments to create this really beautiful sound. And so that's what I do. So I'm more mentoring. I'm showing some little something here, or I'm saying, bring me that so that I can show you how this is going to come out, or give me the mise en place, and I'm going to create the dish the way I think it should be done, not the way that you're doing it right now, and let's just see if we can make this an even better dish. So I would say that's my role now. I don't work a position on the line. And I actually have like chefs de cuisines in all of the different restaurants, and they're the ones that are really mentoring on a moment by moment basis, and I'm sort of moving from one to the other and working with them in that regard. So I think of myself more as the conductor of that big orchestra now.
Mine, an aha moment for me, because the job I had before this, I was so much more hands-on and having to do so much more cooking, and knowing that the responsibility level had changed. That aha moment came when I realized that when I talked to one of my chefs and shared a recipe that I had done in the past, and they came back and said, "Chef, is this what you imagined? Is this what you remember?" At that moment, I learned that I could cook through other people's hands. I could literally cook through other people's hands and know that I'm mentoring, I'm sharing my craft, I'm giving back from my craft. That's part of the Academy of Chefs. It's giving back. That Honor Society is sharing that. We reach a point in our careers, don't you think, that if we don't start sharing it, our brains are so packed full of food that, and thoughts of food, that if we don't start sharing those moments and igniting that passion in those others.
It's such a funny thing, because I think the general public a lot of times thinks that we have all these secrets and that we want to go to our grave holding the secret recipe for X or Y, and I say, oh, that's never the case for me. It's like everything that I know how to make, I'm putting it out there because I want it to enrich other people's life. I want to share it with other people. I want to have the opportunity to see young chefs take what I have and build on that, you know? And so if I don't share every bit of it, then I'm failing at being a great mentor.
Oh, I give it a big amen to that. I say all the time, there's no such thing as a secret in my kitchen.
No.
If someone's got a secret recipe, then you know what? Then don't get us started on it.
Don't get us started on it.
Don't get us started on it. If there's a recipe that you don't want to share, what if you get sick and you're not here? What if you can't be in the kitchen that day, or you need to take a trip, or we need to make that? It's like, if it's a trade secret, then don't put it in the kitchen.
I take that also to when we're hiring people. I always tell everybody that I want them to hire their replacement, okay? Don't hire somebody that doesn't threaten you. Hire somebody that you think you can actually mentor into being as good as you are.
Plan for succession.
Plan for succession, always, through everything. And that shows great confidence. And then you're sharing, you're investing yourself in your staff. And I think that also, you mentioned longevity before, but that's another thing that always ensures longevity, is that you're really bringing your staff along. You're helping them to grow and to feel great success in their work.
That's the thing I take one of the greatest prides in here at Beacon Hill too, is that there's not a chef in my kitchen that doesn't have a voice and that I'm not going to listen to. We say there's no such thing as a stupid question, because if it's a question of theirs, it's a concern of mine.
That's right.
If something fails, if something doesn't go exactly, we rewind and reset that stage. We're not going to beat up about something not going right. Right. Well, that's a waste of time. Turn around and figure out what we could learn from it and go forward.
Absolutely.
I want my kitchens to always be a teaching kitchen. I want to be able to not only mentor from myself, but like you said, your chef de cuisines or your sous chefs, they're your teachers too. They're the ones that are sharing with the ones that you don't have the time, a lot of times, to be hands-on with them. If you can pass it on to the ones, so they pass it on to the next.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Beacon Hill, then what we do, we talked a little bit when we walked around on the tour, but we've got 4 different distinctive dining venues. We've got our bistro, which is open for breakfast and lunch Monday through Thursday, or Monday through Saturday, and then we serve dinner in there Monday through Thursday night. And we have a rotisserie oven where we do rotisserie chicken night, which they absolutely love. You get
I'm
that
sure
home
they do.
style
Yeah.
where they can come through a line and get all they can eat rotisserie chicken and mashed potatoes and corn and some fresh baked desserts. And then we have our dining menus that we change every week in our main dining rooms and roll out a selection of comfort foods and maybe fine dining. And then our new club room dining room, which has more of a set menu. That in itself has been a challenge because they're so used to getting stuff changed every week, but trying to get them to understand that there's a reason why some of the areas have to have a set menu that stays the same. And we try to explain to them that if you go to a restaurant regularly, you expect them to be different all the time or have a menu that you go back for a certain item. And then in our newest with our garden cafe, to be able to have as much of that true farm to fork.
Right.
We bring the residents out here and walk around. We try to show them the food, where it's coming from. If products are coming from the garden and we can load up a table in the kitchen.
And it's a beautiful table. I just walked past it. You can see all this gorgeous produce from local farms.
As much as we can get, what we can bring in from here, it's serve it as fresh as you possibly can at the peak of its ripeness. And
what I like too is that you're sharing with your guests here where this food is coming from, and you have that beautiful map of Michigan with the spots and the names of the farms, and to me that connects us as human beings back to the source of what actually keeps us alive. And I think that we're kind of programmed as human beings to want that. And once we cut that tie, we start to understand food in a way that I don't think is very healthy for us. We break it down into micronutrients and macronutrients, and it becomes part of a diet and all that. No, actually, it's that food that I walk past on that table that keeps us alive. And just the fact that it doesn't have a sticker on it that tells you that it's gluten-free or it has this many calories or that much fat, I think is a really great thing, because it makes you relate to it in a visceral human way. And to me, that's what makes us excited about eating. It's what makes us excited about life, because we are connected directly to the source of what keeps us alive.
I think from the farm boy in me, I think one of the things that happened, the food, when stuff started coming in from around the globe or across the United States, we got all these wonderful products at any time of the year we possibly could get. But I think in that process, we lost the incredible thing of seasonal products, when people can eat and consume them at their absolute best from a 30 to 40 mile radius of where it's coming from. Because it doesn't get shipped. No. It doesn't get shipped all over. You get the stuff that says tree ripe.
You get the stuff that's in season, which I think that over the millennia, our bodies have, because we always had to eat seasonally, our bodies became accustomed to that, and they came to expect that. So it's seasonal stuff. You get stuff that's picked when it's ready to be eaten, not when it's underripe, because it's going to have to be transported for a long distance. You can get a much wider variety of ingredients, because the stuff that's picked to ship, it can only be a few varieties of things, because it has to withstand all of that trucking and the refrigeration and all that sort of stuff. And so you get stuff that has a different and more interesting textures and flavors and all that sort of stuff. So it makes you excited to eat when you eat that kind of food. And I think especially in like a retirement community like where you are, my mother has just moved into a retirement community as well. And I know that sometimes her appetite's not that great, but when she sees something that's fresh and beautiful like that, she's more enthusiastic about eating. And so I think that's a really important thing.
We got these incredible honey rock melons in the other day from the farmer's market.
My mouth is watering just hearing you say that.
We were serving some for dinner, and a resident pulled me over and said, "Where did you get this melon? Where did you get this?" And I explained to him. The next day, they went to the farmer's market. They had moved here from the other side of the state. They didn't know where our Fulton Street farmer's market was. The next day, I went to get melons. that resident had already been there prior to me buying
That's
melons. And thank goodness, because I bought everything they had,
Yeah.
so we would have melons for the picnic we
Right,
just did.
right,
But
right.
it's the cantaloupe at that perfect point to where you could just press it
Yes.
against the roof of your mouth and enjoy
There's
it.
nothing like that.
Oh, we've got some today
Yeah.
that are just
I can't wait.
unbelievable.
That's very cool. Very cool.
This garden, back to the garden and how this garden works, there's 28 spots in this garden. Of the 28, there's 24 that are shared by the residents of our community, residents of the neighborhood around it, and our employees. So we put all those people together, and they're out here tilling the soil. They're talking gardening. They're talking food. They're working together, and they're exploring food. Some of them haven't gardened. Some of them we found. Not only was it hard to leave their home when they moved here, it was leaving that piece of earth that they had prepped the soil, built the soil,
Right.
and they knew what they could grow. And when they realized they could garden, they knew they were home. That was back to that earth.
That's super important. Having a garden, I mean, I so believe in gardens and the direct connection to some of the food that's going to nourish us, that we even put a rooftop garden on our restaurant, 4 stories up, and we garden in these self-watering boxes up there. But it's very important for me to have our cooks, that connection again, to have our cooks go up there every day and harvest what they're going to be putting on the plates for the guests. So I agree that a garden, no matter how big or little, is an important thing for us as human beings, and I'm sure a whole lot of the residents here are really appreciative, even if they're not gardening, just to walk through it and to be able to see the tomatoes are starting to get ripe now. It's been a long time coming this year. I don't know about for you guys.
It's been hard.
It's a hard year for tomatoes, and we usually get our first field-ripened tomatoes about the middle of July in Chicago from the farms that we work with, and it was a whole month late, and we were thinking, what is happening here? But to get the field-ripened tomatoes in August was, we'd almost lost hope. I'll put it
A
that way.
product-driven menu where you can, from this garden or when I go to the market, and I come into the kitchen and the chefs don't know what they're going to see. And it's like a daily mystery box, for lack of a better term.
Right.
Build tonight's menu from what I just procured. Build the menu from what just came from our garden or from our local farmers market, and enjoy it from that avenue.
Yeah, I always tell our chefs that when you can cook with what is put in front of you, you're a real chef. Okay, if you have to make a recipe and you have to get certain ingredients that may or may not be local or may not be in season, you're a recipe follower. If you're going to be a real chef, you have to be able to cook with the bounty that the earth gives you.
A MacGyver of food service.
Yes, you're right.
Yep.
Yeah. Good.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Chef Bayless.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you. This
Yes,
is gorgeous.
what a
and
setting to be out here.
congratulations on all you have built here. It's really, really impressive.
Thank you.